Students, let's start maths revision for the chapter Triangles. Let's see the important points dealt in Triangles chapter. This is indeed a very important chapter for the examination point of view. Let's start. In this chapter, you have studied the following points. Two figures having the same shape but not necessarily the same size are called similar figures. Students, in this chapter you are learning about different similar figures, but due importance is given to similar triangles. Here you should not get confused between similar figures and congruent figures. Do you know what are congruent figures? Congruent figures are figures which have the same shape and same size. That is why you have the second point. All the congruent figures are similar, but the converse is not true. What is the converse of this statement? All the similar figures are not congruent figures. Okay, so you should know what is the difference between congruent figures and similar figures. This is very important when you go for similar triangles criteria. Now let's see what are similar figures. The third point says two polygons of the same number of sides are similar if their corresponding angles are equal, their corresponding sides are in the same ratio. So here we have said that two polygons are similar. The first condition is that the polygons should have the same number of sides. You cannot say that a triangle is similar to a square. So the first condition and the first and foremost condition is that the polygons which you consider should have the same number of sides. If the two polygons are having same number of sides, the two other important conditions is that their corresponding angles should be equal and their corresponding sides are in the same ratio. This is very important. Corresponding sides are in the same ratio. This statement is different for congruent figures. For congruent figures, corresponding angles and corresponding sides should be equal. But in similar figures, corresponding angles should be equal and corresponding sides should be in the same ratio. So if you are asked to differentiate congruent and similar figures, make sure that you write this point. Next, if a line is drawn parallel to one side of a triangle to intersect the other two sides in distinct points, then the other two sides are divided in the same ratio. Students, have you heard about this? A very important proof and a theorem is this. Thales theorem. Find out the other name which you have studied in this chapter, triangles. I am telling this as Thales theorem, and find the name which you have learned for this. And proof is very important. Fifth point. If a line divides any two sides of a triangle in the same ratio, then the line is parallel to the third side. So, fifth point is the converse of fourth point. So, converse of Thales theorem. This is converse of Thales theorem, T-H-A-L-E-S. The proof of this is also very important. Now, you have four conditions that is used to prove the similarity of two triangles. You have to study the proof of each theorem. Students, you know that this chapter, triangles, is having many number of theorems as well as their proof. But I don't know for it's your fortunate or unfortunately, the two important and simple proofs are deleted from your portions. That is, one is converse of Pythagoras theorem and the other one is area of similar triangles. Students, I am making you remember that only the proof is deleted. Proof. I am telling you again that the proof is deleted, but the problems related to both the theorems are still present in our portions. Students, remember that you are following the mathematics standard paper. The deleted portions are different for standard paper and the basic paper. None of our students from Sri Gurukulam Public School is following basic mathematics paper. All of you are following mathematics standard paper. So make sure that you go through the deleted portions of standard maths paper. Now, which are the 4 similarity criterion that you learn? It is AAA similarity criterion, AA similarity criterion, SSS similarity criterion, SAS similarity criterion. Next one. The ratio of the areas of 2 similar triangles is equal to the square of the ratio of their corresponding sides. Students, this is the theorem for which I told you the proof is deleted. Students, I am telling you very important matter. The proof is deleted, but the theorem is still there and the problems are also there, and it's very important for you to study that. So, once again, the ratio of the areas of 2 similar triangles is equal to the square of the ratio of their corresponding sides. Let's see the 11th point. If a perpendicular is drawn from the vertex of the right angle of a right triangle to the hypotenuse, then triangles on both sides of the perpendicular are similar to the whole triangle and to reach each other. Students, this is a theorem for which you don't have a particular proof, but this statement you are using in many proofs which you have learned in the exercise. Okay, so don't write theorem this one, but you should write the correct statement wherever you use this. Okay, so once again, if a perpendicular is drawn from the vertex of the right angle of a right triangle to the hypotenuse, then triangles on both sides of the perpendicular are similar to the whole triangle and to each other. So students, make sure that you learn the statement correctly because you have marks allotted for the correct statement. The next theorem which you learn in this chapter is, in a right triangle, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the other 2 sides. Which theorem is this? Yes, the famous Pythagoras theorem. This is the famous Pythagoras theorem. The proof of Pythagoras theorem is still there in your portion. So learn it and learn how to write step by step. Okay children, and you have many questions related to Pythagoras theorem which you have to learn. The 13th one and the last point in this chapter which you have learned is, in a triangle, if square of one side is equal to the sum of the squares of the other 2 sides, then the angle opposite to the first side is a right angle. Students, this is the converse of Pythagoras theorem. This is the theorem which I told you, you don't have to learn the proof of. Is that clear to you? The theorem and the problems are still there, but the proof is deleted. So students, this is an important chapter from which you can expect case study based questions. If you have gone through the sample question paper of 2020-21, you can find questions from this part. That questions will be discussed during the live session which you will get on 18th and 20th. Is that clear? Let's move on to the next chapter. The next chapter which we dealt during the month of April was probability. A small chapter but a very important chapter. Students, I told you why it is important because some of you are confused with the type of questions which are coming from this chapter. You have a little concepts that to learn from this, but the way you read the question and understand what is given in the question is very important to answer it. So let's find what are the important points that deal with probability. The first point is the theoretical probability of an event E written as P of E is defined as P of E is equal to number of favorable outcome by total number of favorable outcomes. Okay children? So this is the very important formula which you learn in chapter probability. P of E, that is probability of an event that can occur is number of favorable outcome by total number of favorable outcomes. Now, the probability of a sure event is 1. That is, the chance of that event to occur is 100%. That means the probability is 1. The probability of an impossible event is 0. That means if you are sure that the event will not happen, the probability is 0. The probability of an event E is a number P of E such that 0 less than or equal to P of E less than or equal to 1. Okay. P of E should lie between 0 and 1. An event having only one outcome is called an elementary event. The sum of the probabilities of all the elementary events of an experiment is 1. That means I told you if you are having more than one outcomes, the sum of all the probabilities of all the elementary events of an experiment is 1. For an event E, P of E plus P of E dash is equal to 1, where E stands for not E. That is, if you are taking the example of tossing a coin, if the chance of heads is 50%, what is the chance of tails? It's also 50%. So, not falling head is also 50%. E and E dash are called complementary events. If head is there, you can say that tail will not turn up. That means the complementary events are head and tails like that. Then next, a concept which you are learning in this and using it for frequently is deck of playing cards. You have 52 cards, 13 cards of 4 sets. Black clubs, black spades, red diamonds, red hearts. This part you should learn it by heart. Okay children? Okay. So we'll go on to the next chapter. The next chapter is polynomials. The first chapter which you learnt in the month of June. Let's see. Polynomials of degrees 1, 2 and 3 are called linear, quadratic and cubic polynomials respectively. A quadratic polynomial in x with real coefficients is of the form ax square plus bx plus c, where a, b, c are real numbers. Now, the zeros of polynomial x is the x coordinate of the point where the graph of y, p of x intersects the x-axis. So, you should know the shape of the graph when you draw a particular quadratic equation. Next, you have the relation between the zeros. Alpha plus beta is equal to minus b by a. This is very important when you solve the case study based